Hi, I'm Alfred Ells from Leaders at Last Ministries. We're an organization that works with leaders in order to assure they finish well in their calling in life. And today I'm coming to you to talk about conflict and conflict resolution. First of all, let me define conflict. Conflict is simply a clashing of two people's wills or ideas or differences. Conflict is pretty normal. You might realize that conflict is found in the church. It's found in families, it's found in marriages. Conflict is everywhere in life. So no matter where you go in life, conflict is going to be an issue because people are different. People have different ideas, they have different opinions, they have different ways of doing things, and therefore conflict is always a part of normal life. Now, difficulty with conflict is that most people don't like it. It's kind of distasteful, dislikeful, as well as really offensive at times. And so conflict becomes a real problem in people's lives, and most people aren't quite sure how to handle conflict, especially if they become offended and get their feelings hurt or get upset about something and are angry. What we find is that people learn styles or ways of doing conflict from their family past. Let me give you an example in my own life that makes a difference. I was born and raised in a family of 6 boys and 2 girls from a mining town area. And when we did family conflict, we did it angrily. In other words, if we had a difference of opinion, we'd blow up, shout at each other, scream, say things. But 5 minutes later, we're over it. Now, my wife came from a very different family culture. She came from a family of girls, mainly 4 girls and 2 boys. So whenever conflict arose in her life, she dealt with it by kind of shutting down, giving the cold shoulder, and going silent. Well, you can imagine what our first years of marriage were like. I'd get upset, I'd blow up. She would be horrified at my anger. She would shut down, give me the cold shoulder for 3 days. Well, by the second day, I'd get kind of upset again because she wasn't talking to me. So I'd blow up again. She'd add 3 more days. We spent the first year or 2 of our marriage, me blowing up and her adding days. I mean, it was crazy. We never resolved anything. Finally, thank God, we settled down and started learning how to resolve conflict. And that's one of the most important pieces of it. There are ways to resolve conflict. There are ways not to. If you learn how to resolve conflict, you'll notice that almost no matter what the difference is, whatever the conflict is, you'll be able to handle it in a way that'll give you a best chance possible of resolve. So let me give you a few tips on resolving conflict. Again, let me stress this point. How you resolve the conflict is probably more important over time than what the conflict is. Because the how of resolving the conflict is what seems to create more problems, research says, than the actual conflict. In our early years of marriage, Susan and I resolved our conflicts in the same manner all the time, no matter what the conflict was, and it was such a poor way of doing it that we never resolved much of anything. So the first thing I'd recommend is adopt a model of how to resolve conflict. In other words, on our website, we have a model sample that says there are 10 proven steps to resolving conflict. Those proven steps have been research-based and are also biblically based. They will give you actual models and how-tos, do's and don'ts of do this, don't do this, and the probability of resolving conflict will be much greater if you practice them. So study steps, study models of resolving conflict, and agree ahead of time, this is the way we're going to do it. This is the model we're going to use. And if you do that ahead of time, when the conflict arises, your probability of resolving it is much greater. Now, let me give you tip number 2 on resolving conflict. All of us come from a family where we learned how to resolve conflict by imitating or not imitating how we saw conflict resolved. Based on that, we all developed what's called a style of resolving conflict. The style in my family was anger and blow-ups. Nothing much got resolved because the only thing we did was vent. We didn't really resolve anything, okay? My wife's style in her family she imitated was the cold shoulder style, which is more an avoidance style. It's not a style that's really helpful for resolving conflict, especially when you get a person like her who's avoiding, a person like me who's blowing up. Very little gets resolved at all. So look at your style. On our website, we describe 5 styles of how to resolve conflict. Find your style. See if it matches what's called the resolve style. The resolve style is the one researchers say does the very best in resolving conflict, but sadly, only 2 to 5% of all of us practice that style. So, tip number 2, examine your style and see if it's the right one and what you can do to change it if not. Let me give you a third tip. The third tip is it is not unusual to be stalemated. It's not unusual in a conflict to get to a point where neither party budges or neither party can find the way through the conflict to resolve. In those situations, get a trusted, safe person to help you. It's not an embarrassment. It's nothing to be ashamed of. All of us need help at some time in our life. So find someone like that who can help you, because once you break through a conflict on an issue, it makes it easier to do so next time, and you can continue to grow. So in summary, I would say this. Conflict is a natural part of life. We all have to deal with it. If we learn how to deal with it well, our chances of resolving conflicts are much greater. And then they become a chance and an opportunity for growth and change in our life, as opposed to a stumbling block in our relationships. I'm Alfred Ells from Leaders at Last. Have a nice day.